Space, the final frontier. Join us for a bold conversation. Our prime directive? To recap our favorite Star Trek shows, both new and old. To engage in debate about all things Trek. Prepare to energize with phasers set to stun.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Phasers Set to Stun. In this ongoing series from a Film By podcast, we continue to show our love for every quadrant of the expanding Star Trek universe by covering television, animation, movies, directors, merchandise, and much more. Plotting the course as always is your core Trek crew. I'm Scott Hoffman.
I'm David Burns.
And I'm Wayne Whited.
And in this episode, we're continuing our coverage of Strange New Worlds Season 3. Specifically, we're covering Episode 9, Terrarium, written by Alan B. McElroy and directed by Andrew Coots. I think is that the way to say it? Coots?
Sure.
Tell us in your comments. Since it's so new, we're calling for a red alert on spoilers. If you haven't seen this latest episode, please go and watch and come back to join us when you're done. All right, Dave, let's break it down. Tell us what this episode is all about.
Well, first, Scott, I want to say welcome back. I want to know, has anyone noticed Scott isn't around when Pelia is around, and it's vice versa?
No. Don't look at the Pelia behind the curtain.
They're never in the same room together. It's something to think about, okay? Because she's not in this episode, and here's Scott.
You guys did a great job with the last episode. That was an amazing episode. So I'm sorry that I missed that.
But I'm sorry you missed it too, because it was a good episode.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive into this one. Hit it.
All right. The Enterprise is on a mission exploring a part of the galaxy that has some strange phenomenon that not even Spock can explain. Erica is put in charge of taking a shuttle on a solo mission into a nebula to get some readings the Enterprise can't get. But upon doing this, a wormhole opens up and takes Erica and the shuttle. The Enterprise desperately tries to find her quickly as they are under pressure to get a medication to some colonists. After escaping the wormhole, Erica crash lands on a moon where her only survival is to befriend an enemy, a Gorn, that she discovers has crash landed as well. They work together against all odds that seem almost impossible, only discover in the end that they were nothing more than lab rats in an experiment to see what would happen when two enemies are forced to help each other in a callback to a very famous episode of the original Star Trek known as The Arena.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about rude aliens kidnapping us for experiments, but it gets kind of tiresome.
Right.
In this episode, it didn't. I'll start off with first reactions to this episode. This one caught me by surprise in so many ways.
Yeah.
But I'm very glad that I was surprised by my expectation that we were going to lose Erica. Every time there's some Ortegas focus, I think, oh, this is it. Yep. They're building this up, but I was pleasantly surprised by this one. What about you? Or Dave, go ahead. What about you?
I was too, to be surprised on this one, because once I learned what was going on, I felt like this is going to fall into that trope trap that, you know, we've seen this a few other times. I know the Next Generation did it with the enemy, but it was Romulans instead of a Gorn. And I felt like, again, let's talk about the end of the movie Enemy Mine. But, you know, I really enjoyed this episode a lot. It really shined on Eric Ortegas in this episode. And another thing that I really liked too was the Gorn, the design of the Gorn. I swore it was straight from the Dark Crystal. The way they had designed the Gorn.
Good call.
And I loved that about it. I loved how they had to work together to communicate with one another. I thought that was incredibly well done. You know, agree, disagree. You know, I loved that about it. But no, I thought Erica was fantastic. In an episode she needed to heal, even though the way it ended was yet another depressing ending, for crying out loud, with what happens to the Gorn. When she blew her lid at the ending like that, just upset, you know, screaming, you know, I was too. I was like so upset. It's like, oh my God, you just killed this Gorn and you didn't need to do that. But, and she even states it at the end of the episode, the Gorn was my friend. Yoland's my friend. How do I process that? You know, so I love this episode for Erica.
Wayne, what about you?
Yeah, this really surprised me too. This is not the direction I thought they were going to be going with this story. First of all, I didn't think we'd ever see the Gorn again, actually physically. I'm glad we did, but with the when we first saw that Ortegas was suffering from the PTSD from hegemony, I didn't think this is the way it was going to end with her having a completely new outlook on the Gorn, realizing that they're not exactly the monsters that everyone thought they were. I really thought it was going to go a different direction, and I wasn't sure if she was going to survive the season or not, to tell you the truth. It was 50-50 in my opinion, because we really don't know if she was coming back next season or not. There's never been anything that's been said. But I'm glad that they did it this way. I thought it was a fantastic episode. It's definitely stories that we've seen many, many times before in Star Trek, and I'll mention it later. But it works. It really those type of stories work for Star Trek. Taking one character and throwing him with the enemy on a planet, it just seems to work all the time on the episodes. And I'm glad that you chose Ortegas for this, because I think all of us agree that we needed an episode strictly about her. She needed something that centered on her, and this was perfect for her. And that ending, it's so open ended. I'm worried that they're going to just forget this. I hope they don't. But this whole I don't know, the tension now that's going to come up between Ortegas and Lon. I hope that they explore that next episode, or at least next season, because this is something that I think that there's a lot of dramatic possibility in the storyline for this, and I'm hoping that they don't fall into that whole Star Trek trope and just forget about it next week.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really love too, I talked about Erica needed this for her healing. Just the one scene where she falls asleep comfortably next to the Gorn. I thought that scene was perfect, and it was needed, because it showed Erica was like, okay, I've made friends with this Gorn. I get it now. Sure, they're still enemies, don't get me wrong. But, at that moment, you realized Erica has pushed through her PTSD to a point, and now she's going to have to put it on, but for crying out loud, she just can't win.
Well, it's interesting that you both bring up a lot of great points. First of all, it didn't even occur to me this is the first episode focused on Erica, because there's so many great episodes that focus on her development, and I'm glad that we did get an episode that's completely focused on her, because Dave, to your point, this is a lot of growth. It's her getting through her PTSD. Not to say that it's gone entirely, but it certainly has taken a step forward. And one of the things that it makes me think of, and I don't remember the name of the episode, but there was the Balance of Terror episode where Pike sees the future if he continues to be the captain, and Erica has a very specific kind of reaction to the Romulans, which seems to be very similar to La'an's approach to the Gorn, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So seeing her grow in that way, I think, is very interesting. I think it's she gets the chess piece that she keeps, kind of reminded me of the Inner Light.
That was a nice touch. I like that.
From Next Generation, and I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Gorn. It's building up to something, and I don't know if it's going to happen in the next episode or if it's waiting until the next season. But it'll be interesting to see how much she wants to kind of see the Gorn in another light, or try to reach them, or try to communicate with them. Although the Gorn won't have any awareness of this at all. Like, no. Enterprise has the benefit of knowing that there's communication, that they possibly speak our language without being able to communicate that way, or at least understand. I wasn't sure if that was just because of the communicator that she had built, or because the Gorn was like, yeah, I've been listening to you this whole time. I just haven't been able to reciprocate. But the Gorn will be completely unaware, whereas Enterprise has the benefit of hearing what Erica has to say. I want to shout out to the actor, stunt performer, Warren Shearer, who played the Gorn in this episode, and has apparently played the Gorn in several other episodes throughout this series. Has a long list of credits, but I agree, Dave. Like, the movements, very reminiscent of Dark Crystal and
Yes.
did a great job with nonverbal communication.
Mm-hmm.
The subtle cues, it gave a lot of character to this Gorn that I never expected to see. And I don't know if it's this Gorn specifically. I don't know if it's something about the female Gorn, or if it's all Gorn. We've just seen the ones that are geared for war. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting look at them.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, because I'd love to see some behind the scenes filming of this, because it looked like they were using a practical costume for the Gorn at times, and it was really, really well done. Because this is the first close-up, true look we got of the Gorn, and we got a lot of flashes in the other episodes. But this time we actually got to see them, on screen for a long time, and it looked great. I actually could see the development between this Gorn and the original series Gorn. Everybody makes fun of the rubber mask, but you can see that the connections, the little bits that they put in there into this costume. It was just beautifully created.
Yeah. Another thing that I really liked about this, there's so much I liked about this episode, but one of the things that I liked that the writers did was the Pike stuff. I like that, Ahura pulled Erica when she fudged the numbers.
Oh yeah.
It was, she pushed it to over 60%, which is what was needed before Pike said, okay, we'll do it. But Pike knew. He knew she did that. But I like Pike's all his responses, because he says, Ahura was like, I don't want to give up. And Pike was like, we're not going to give up yet. We need to bring Erica home. And he was going to bat for one crew member. And I love that about him, because obviously, and Una was pushing, look, we got to go, because we got to go take care of these colonists. There's like 4,000 colonists who need this medication. If they don't get it, they're not going to survive. But Pike was still like, I know we got to do that. We still got a little bit of time. So Ahura, you got this, but you only got a limited amount of time to do this. Just prove to me that you can do it. I just love how he went to bat for Erica.
Yeah, I like the way that they portrayed Una in this story, though. She was the first officer. That's her job, to give the alternates, to try to tell the captain, hey, this is what we got to do. You could really see the hurt, it was rough for her to say that. She did not want to leave her behind, but she had to say it. That's her job.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just interesting in that scene. Like, Uhura was not being subtle at all.
No.
Like with her look, she was like, sure, hold on a second, and then just drags her finger up, and I'm like,
this.
come on, you're fooling nobody. But yeah, his reactions, the first one in the meeting room, where he says, hey, nobody says we're giving up on her.
Yeah.
We're going to do what we can. And then on the bridge, when he acknowledges, like, I know that you fudged the numbers, but it's within an acceptable variance or whatever, and he was willing to let it go. But also interesting that we don't usually see that side of Ahura, that she's going to, lie, or that she's going to fudge in that way. In a way, it almost shows a little bit of, I think Pike could see that as desperation, but he could also see that as a, kind of a moment when she didn't trust him. Like, she could have said, like, it's at 56, like, can we go with that? And he'd be like, all right, I'm willing to do 56.
Yeah.
So just an interesting decision in that moment.
What I like about the writers this season too, and I need to go back and watch the other seasons to see if they did this, but they love to lean on other films and stuff that they put in, like little tidbits. One of the things that I laughed hysterically at, clearly somebody was a fan of Castaway, because when she's like, I've made water, and it was almost like Tom Hanks' character saying, I made fire, and celebrating. That's what it felt like to me, and I loved that scene.
Yeah. Well, the whole plot is kind of a blend of Enemy Mine and The Truman Show. Yeah. Right?
Yep.
With these Metrons that could have been like, you could have done this another way and accomplished this without torturing somebody, having them eat, centipede sushi and killing a Gorn. But all right, cool.
Did anybody notice Ahura did the Picard?
No, I didn't notice.
She got up out of the chair to go to Pike, and she jerked her
straighten the tunic
down. Yeah, like she just did the Picard.
Yep.
That had to be on purpose. It had to have been.
Yeah, for sure. I really don't envy Erica with having to eat those centipedes. That was so gross.
Oh, God.
That was absolutely disgusting. but a necessary thing. Like it's
Yeah.
one of those moments where this, I don't know, the Gorn was able to eat them apparently with no problem, but
Yeah.
it could have added to some of the tension if it was like they're not really survivable sustenance, um, but they can eat it. Um, yeah, kind of an interesting play there.
There was a lot of good dialogue from Erica when she was talking to the Gorn. You know, it's almost like she was talking to herself at times, almost like talking herself through it, even though she was communicating with the Gorn. And this, some of it was even before she did that communicator so that she could, translate the Gorn language to, a yes or no, agree or disagree.
Yeah.
But one of the lines I loved in this, and this is going back to her healing, was she looked at the Gorn when, he obviously she had that, hurt leg. And Erica knew that she needed to help her. And the Gorn, didn't want that. And she had that line, "You think you're too broken to be fixed." It was almost like she was talking about herself too at that moment. And I love that line. I really did. It stood out for the whole episode to me.
Yeah, that is a great line. And it's interesting how they kind of gave them an extra thing to connect with by making them both pilots.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Castaway, like that makes me think of all the different kind of trinkets
Yes.
and things. Like when she comes in, there's like painting on the walls, and there's
Yeah.
something that looks like a memento or some kind of a statue or whatever. Something we haven't been shown from the Gorn, but shows us a little bit more depth.
And how long has she been there? If she was able to create all that stuff, how long has that Gorn been there?
Exactly. Exactly.
And I swear that one scene, that Gorn smiled. It was,
Oh yeah.
It was creepy, but then I liked that as well. I just the different characterization. I like the idea that they're exploring the Gorn further as a civilization rather than just monsters like we've always known them before.
Yeah. I know we've talked about the CGI of this show, and it is phenomenal. I got to point out one scene that I thought was incredible, and that's when the Enterprise was going into the wormhole for the first time. That shot was incredible.
Yeah, you can see the shields
Yes.
around it when it was forced in the
Beautiful.
wormhole.
Yep. Beautiful shot.
Which brought me back to, I know we'll get to this in Easter eggs, but it brought me right to the episode Relics from Next Generation, when they had to do the same trick
they
to
did the
open
same
up the
thing.
Dyson sphere aperture.
Yep.
I love little tidbits like that. I like that we keep seeing those happen.
I do too.
I just thought this episode was just wonderfully written. They had some incredible scenes. That scene with the meeting where everybody's arguing. We don't see enough of that.
Right.
In Star Trek, not just the stuff on the planet, because everything on the planet was well written. That's the final scene with Uhura and Ortegas, wonderfully written. The bridge scenes, all wonderfully written. This I'm going to have to reevaluate this entire season, because this could possibly be my favorite episode. I don't know. I really, really enjoyed everything about this.
Yeah, we've got one more to go, but I'm with you on that. I feel like, and I think I mentioned this before, I feel like every week we're saying, man, this was the best episode, or this is the best episode.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're right. I think I need to go back after we're done and reevaluate which one, because this episode was written extremely well.
Yeah, it's high up there on the list.
Yeah, absolutely. And to go back to that scene where she's flipping out, she knows somebody's watching them. And she says, well, would you show yourself? And just going off on that. And then obviously they're like, we got to beam up. So they, in the middle of the beaming, which was an incredible effect, by the way.
Yes. And
When
a
they
great
were
decision.
frozen.
Oh yeah, that was nice.
In between transporting. God, that was incredible. And then they came out and they explained who they were and what they were doing. I love that scene.
Which surprised me. I did not expect them to go that direction and bring the Metrons back into this. We other than Q, we don't get too many of these godlike beings in the live action Star Trek. So seeing them again was a real surprise. And I get the impression that the Metron had mentioned that he might have to change the parameters and stuff. I'm wondering if that could somehow connect a little bit to the look of the Gorn and the way they acted in the original series arena. I'm not sure, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's also, I kind of question I'd be interested to know a little bit more about that whole kind of mind wipe concept with Erica, because I forget the Next Generation episode, but where Data is the only one who remembers what happened.
Yep.
And he had to reset the day, and he basically
That was
says
that was Clues. called
Clues. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because he was like, you can't do that. You can't do that to the species and leave them with little mysteries because they'll keep picking and picking
They'll
and
keep
picking
searching.
to try
Yep.
to unravel it. Right.
Yep.
So I wonder if there is something where she can't name the species, she can't say anything about it, but she does know that it was all part of a big experiment. Because without that, it feels like that would really torture Erica. Like she wouldn't be able to let that go. So hopefully they gave some kind of way of tying that up for her. But it was a great use of the Metrons. You know, that's a callback to Arena, which I have to go back and watch now because I didn't even remember that happened. So I'll be interested to see how they kind of tie all that together. All right. Well, I think we're pretty sure of this answer. Which crew member shined the most?
Oh yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and ask it anyway. Wayne, go ahead first.
Oh yeah, it's pretty obvious. This is the Ortegas episode, and she shined as she should. We all been waiting for this episode, this time to happen. We all been waiting for this storyline to come to fruition. Here it is. She's just fantastic. You know, everything about her appearance, the way she acted, the way she learned the lesson with the Gorn, and you know, saw them more than just the enemy. Everything about her shined, and I love the actress. I think she's done a wonderful job, and finally we got to see her moment on the series.
Yeah.
Dave, what about you?
It's clearly Ortegas in this episode. I loved how at the beginning of the episode she was just so happy and so giddy to be back, being able to do, you know, a solo mission on her own. And the fact that, you know, when she was talking about, you know, after she crash landed, she was going through her mind, okay, Starfleet Academy 101, and she was processing, you know, food, housing, water. This is what I got to do. And you know, and she built that condensating
water condenser.
Water condenser. Thank you.
Yep.
She built that water condenser, and that's when she was celebrating that she had made some water. But this is an episode that we knew was coming. We knew there was an Erica episode. I didn't think they were going to leave it for the last episode, so we figured it was going to be this one. But I love the fact that, you know, she really, to the point, healed herself. But it's not a neat bow. It's not.
No.
Because we see what happens at the end of this episode with her and Lon. That's going to cause some friction between the two of them. Especially we know how much Lon hates the Gorn. And now Erica has got that, okay, I know they're my enemy, but I can see we can communicate with them. We can possibly change the outcome of our relationship with them. So I see the friction here. And Wayne, I'm going to go back to what you said. I hope they don't drop this, because this really causes some friction on the bridge of the Enterprise between these two characters. And I like that. Not everybody can get along. Just going back to what you said about the arguing, you know, that's the way it is. It's nature, because everybody's got ideas, and they're going to, you know, fight. Even though they're family, they're still going to argue a little bit, because they got to figure out what is the best solution for these puzzles that they're always in, you know. And I love that so much. But Erica, just seeing her buckle down on that planet and just become so strong. We know she's a strong pilot, for crying out loud, but getting to see her out of a ship and being put into an environment that she's not used to, and using that training she got in Starfleet Academy and pulling it out was perfect.
Yeah. I mean, we're making her so much more than her role, so much more than a pilot, which is exactly what it should be.
Yeah.
And it's definitely, you know, we know that Erica is not going to continue to be the helmsman on the Enterprise, whether that's going someplace else or hopefully going someplace else. I won't finish that statement. But it's big shoes to fill for Sulu, and I think they've done a consistently great job with this series of doing so. You know, in engineering, there's still that absence felt, and even though we've got, you know, great things coming with Pelia and Scotty, there's still that absence, and I love the fact that they're building that up so much. I love the subtle things about Erica in this one, like folding the paper airplanes for luck, which is kind of interesting, because in the Star Trek universe, I rarely see paper being used for anything.
Right.
So that's got to be like going into Pelia's room and grabbing a stack out of the old copier or something, but
Probably where she got it from her
That's
quarters.
probably, yeah.
exactly. She just has a stack. Like, we need a lot of luck, so just
Yeah.
keep it coming.
Okay.
I'll be interested to see what the answer is to this question, Dave. Who would you want to be in this episode?
Normally I don't want to put myself in a position where I've got a lot of pressure on me,
Uh-huh.
but I really would like to have been Pike in this episode.
Okay.
Just because of him coming to bat to wanting to find one person. And instead of going straight to save that civilization, where 4,000 people were dependent on this medication that they have. I feel like, would I do the same thing if I was in that position? Yes, I probably would, because they are a family. And I would do everything I can within a limited amount of time, which is what he gave. We can only do this so much, and we got to get. But just Pike's demeanor in this episode, I loved, and I would just love to have been in his position there, because it shows how much he is the father figure of this crew, but he also cares about each one of them individually. There's no favorites, even though we think he is, except for Patel, but she's not on the crew. But
Right. Yeah.
But so yeah, it's Pike.
Wayne, what about you?
Yeah, David pretty much said almost everything I was going to say, but I had chose Pike too, and for a lot of the very similar reasons. I mean, he has what you have to consider one of the best crews in Starfleet, and they all work so incredibly well together. He knows he can trust each and every one of them, and he's not willing to give up on any of them. I love that, even though his first officer is telling him, "We've got to do this, we got to do this," but he's not going to give up on Artigas, and I loved Anson Mount's performance. I loved the decisions that the writers made with him, and I have to choose him too. It was either that or the Metrons.
By the way, did anybody notice when Pike was flying the ship? Did you notice that he was at the helm?
I did.
Yeah.
I love
And
that.
Spock,
I like that little
Spock
joke.
was in the captain's chair. Did you see that?
It looked weird, but I love
It
that.
did.
I love Una's jab too. She's like, "Oh, you've never mentioned that you're just as good of a pilot."
Yeah.
And I love that she was in that position, because that was the position she usually sat in the original pilot cage.
Yep.
She was right there. That first thing that reminded me. Yeah, I love that scene. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. So, my choice is a little weird.
Uh-oh.
I'm going with
Would it be the Gorn? Oh, I
The
knew
Gorn.
it.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is I'm calling BS on my own choice, because at first I was like, "Oh, Erica," because Eric did an amazing job, but she also had to eat centipede,
Yeah.
and I just don't. But the Gorn had to do that too. The reason I'm choosing the Gorn, I just want to know more about what brought her there, maybe some of her backstory, to see kind of what was on her mind, and what she was really saying to Erica. It's interesting that we never got that. I love the kind of binary agree disagree kind of responses that we got, but I just know I'd like to know a little bit more about that, where they were, what brought them there, a lot of the kind of stuff.
That's a good call.
I agree with you too, Scott. I would love to know more, not just about her, but more about the Gorn. But my feeling is this is probably the last time we will see the Gorn in the series.
Interesting. Even with what Patel is going through?
Well, I don't think she's going to turn it. I'm now suspecting, now that we've seen this episode and the Metrons and stuff, I don't think she's going to turn into a full Gorn. My prediction is she'll be probably saved.
Okay. All right.
But won't
I hope
stay
that's
with
true.
Pike. But won't stay with Pike. Something's going to happen. She's going to decide that she's going to take that promotion, and then they're going to just drift away. That's my prediction.
Okay.
Can I go way out on a limb here
Yeah.
and say that she turns into the Gorn that Kirk fights?
Oh God. And that's her wearing the Flintstones costume.
That was my original thought. That was, until I saw this episode, that was my original thought. But now I'm thinking that the Metrons did something to change them into looking into the rubbery Gorn people.
The rubber Gorn.
Yeah,
So
with the thing on. I don't know.
No.
Since Dave went there, I'll go there and say that one kind of off-ramp that my brain took with this one is, what if the Gorn that she meets in this episode is Batel? Because the wormhole doesn't necessarily, in terms of like bending time and space and whatever, it's somebody that has some kind of nostalgia whatever, like,
Dude,
entirely possible.
I never
But
thought of that.
that would warp. Oh, man, that would be crazy to think about if they went
that's
that
some
route.
timey-wimey crap there, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
Is Doctor Who? What is this?
but that could work. I mean, that could actually fit. Oh,
yeah,
well,
I don't know. I'd rather think of it as like, there's an offshoot of Gorn that actually feels this way, and that it's not just, it has to have some kind of human element to it. But
Wouldn't that give an even more meaning to Una's decisions of saying, "Hey, we got to go. We got to go."
yeah.
could be.
That's wow. That's crazy to think about, Scott. Crazy.
Anyway, crazy. Speaking of crazy, there were a lot of Easter eggs in this one, obviously. Well, I mean, we've mentioned a lot of them, and obviously Arena is kind of a big one because the Metrons. That before I looked that up, I didn't even realize we had met them before. Yeah, I guess I just assumed there were a lot, but
No, there's
Wayne,
not
did
that
you
many.
notice any?
Only one I got was the USS Constellation, and the
Yeah,
captain
that's
was
true.
Matt Decker, I believe it was.
Yeah.
That's the only one I got. We might have gotten more.
Not very many more. You just mentioned one of them, but I wanted to bring up the fact that this episode, it was really, really good, but it does use a lot of common Star Trek ideas. The whole thing about the hero being forced to face an enemy on a planet. We've seen that many, many times before. Not just Arena, not just the enemy, but this episode really reminded me a lot of Picard and Darmok on the planet, the episode Darmok. And then, of course, the idea of a greater power watching over them. We're very familiar with that. Probably the most famous one would be Q. But you got, Nagilum in The Next Generation, where silence is leashed. You got Apollo in the original series, the Vendorians, and they appeared in the Lower Decks episode Caves. It's something we see over and over again, but just like I said before, it seems to work very good for Star Trek.
It does.
Yeah.
Now, the Easter eggs, other than the Decker and Constellation, which, by the way, don't forget that Decker is also the father of Commander Willard Decker from Star Trek Motion Picture.
Yep.
But I only found really one other. There was a mention of the Epsilon Indy system, system which is located in the Beta Quadrant. And its planets have been mentioned quite a few times on the various Star Trek series. It was mentioned there was a band of marauders that ravaged the system in the original series episode, And the Children Shall Lead. The Terran Empire had a shipyard in the Discovery episode Terra Firma Part 1. And the murderer that Deanna Troi saw in her visions in the episode Eye of the Beholder, he was from Epsilon Indy 2. And even Wesley Crusher mentions it when he was looking out the window of 10 Forward in the Next Generation episode The Child. And then I do want to talk a little bit for those non-Trekkers like us. Exactly who are the Metrons? I know we mentioned them quite a lot. We mentioned the episode they came from, which was the original series episode Arena. That's the same episode that introduced the Gorn. But they are a higher evolved race of beings that originally inhabited the area of the Beta Quadrant, which is part of the United Federation of Planets. They found violence distasteful and had been observing and experimenting on other races just to see if the lesser beings can move past violence and live peacefully together. They haven't been mentioned too many times. This and the episode Arena are the only times we've ever seen them in live action of the series. But they have been mentioned once again. There was an episode called The Examples on Star Trek Discovery, where they believed that the Metrons had possibly created the dark matter anomaly, but they ended up, that was dismissed, that they found out that couldn't have been them. But however, in the IDW comic Star Trek Year 4, The Enterprise Experiment, it was revealed that the Metrons and the Organians were the earliest creations of the Preservers. That's the alien race that created the design of most beings in the universe.
Interesting.
That's going deep. Okay.
Yeah, that was deep. The only one that I caught, which was a small one, and I don't know if this is accurate or if anybody else caught this, but the chess piece that Erica keeps seems to be in the shape of a Gorn ship. Like it's kind of it seemed to have like a round hub and then 3 spikes kind of surrounding the outside. It seemed interesting that that's the kind of piece that she would keep. that might come back later if we do see the Gorn crop up again. I could see that being useful. Kind of a gross way to keep a chess piece, because knowing that it's carved out of the bones of the centipede things that the Gorn has eaten, but kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then I'll wrap it up by saying I was kind of sad to see that this is the next to last episode before the season finale. I'm not ready for that yet, but
I'm not either.
Which we did get a
looking forward
blurb
to
from
it.
this time. I know they said they weren't going to give us any, but they did give us a very vague blurb.
What's that?
It says, when an ancient and evil alien force resurfaces, Pike must make a difficult decision to stop it from spreading. So the ancient and evil alien force has got to be that, I can't remember what they were called, but those beings that would eventually evolve into the Q.
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
saw early
That we
season.
did
It
a
has
few
to-
episodes ago.
Yeah, it has to be them. And we knew they were going to be coming back. We knew that story had to appear, and I had a feeling it was going to be the finale. So that's my guess. That's what they're talking about. But,
So the ones that possessed Gamble and Through the Lens
yes.
of Time?
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's them. But difficult decision. That's interesting. I wonder what Pike's decision will be that they're talking about.
We shall see.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm not looking forward to being over, but
No.
it's like you said, when it's consistently, like, they hit it out of the park every single time. So we're bound for a great one, possibly a frustrating one, because we have to wait until the next season to see the resolution. But
Yeah, but it'll only be a year wait this time, not 2 years.
oh well, that's all. That's good.
Been a great season.
Yes.
And I've had a blast talking with both of you. So thank you, as always, gentlemen,
Absolutely.
for joining us. And listeners, thank you. We'll be back next week for that episode. Remember that Hailing Frequencies are always open for you to share your thoughts and your questions on Facebook, Instagram, and your favorite social channels. Find us online at afilmbypodcast.com for our articles and episodes that stream for free. Email us at afilmbypodcast@gmail.com. And if you're looking for more exclusive content and swag, send some Latinum our way through Patreon. We'll see you next time for another episode of Phasers Set to Sun.
Agree.